Caitlin Clark has officially announced a lifetime contract in Europe, marking the end of her time in the WNBA, and it's hard to wrap our heads around it. For those of us who followed her career from the beginning, this feels like a monumental shift. The reaction? Mixed emotions. On one hand, there's joy for Clark. She deserves every ounce of success, and it's clear Europe knows her worth. But on the other hand, her departure feels like a devastating blow to the WNBA. Clark, who has carried the league on her back for so long, has decided to move on. And can we even blame her? Let's break it down. Clark has been the shining star of the WNBA, drawing in massive crowds, boosting TV ratings, and selling out jerseys like no other. Yet, the league treated her like just another player, another name on the roster. When you have someone like Caitlin Clark, you don't just treat her like an average player. She's a generational talent, a player that defines an era. But what did the WNBA give her in return? Questionable officiating, accusations of racism, and let's not forget, a paycheck that hardly reflects her impact. Clark has been vocal about her frustrations, especially when it comes to the league's officiating. After all, she's been hammered on the court, game after game, with opponents getting away with plays that most players wouldn't. Recently, she told reporters, "I feel like I'm getting hammered and everybody is physical with me. Opponents get away with things that other people don't." This was a cry for help, a call for the WNBA to step in and protect their biggest star. But the league's response? Crickets. Instead of supporting her, they handed her a pat on the back, a thank you for your service card, and essentially a tip jar. Now, the WNBA can cry, whine, and beg her to stay all they want, but Clark is done. Europe is treating her like the royalty she deserves to be, while the WNBA is left with regret. And really, can you blame Clark for leaving? Let's talk about what Europe is offering. Recognition, respect, and most importantly, the paycheck she's earned. The WNBA had their chance to lock her down, to make her the face of the league for years to come, but they hesitated, and now they're paying the price. The truth is, Clark's departure isn't just about money. It's about respect. The WNBA's inability to recognize her value is glaringly obvious, and it's something that's been building for a while. Sure, Clark's rookie salary was a little over $300,000 for 4 years, meaning she was making around $76,000 or $78,000 per season. But that's nothing compared to what she could make overseas. Now, with a lifetime contract in Europe, Clark is finally getting paid what she's worth, and honestly, good for her. Let's take a look at how the WNBA mishandled this. Clark's impact on the league has been undeniable. When she played, TV ratings soared, merchandise flew off the shelves, and arenas were packed with fans eager to watch her in action. She brought an energy to the game that was unmatched, yet the league treated her like just another face in the crowd. Did they miss the memo that she was the future of women's basketball? Instead of rewarding her with a hefty contract, they stuck with their everything's fair policy. Newsflash, WNBA. Fairness doesn't apply when you have a player like Caitlin Clark. You pay her what she's worth, period. But the WNBA didn't. They played it safe, trying to keep things balanced, and now they're left scrambling. Clark, meanwhile, is thriving overseas, where she's being treated like the superstar she is. The WNBA's hesitation cost them dearly. They didn't just lose a player. They lost the asterisk player, the one who was supposed to carry the league into the future. Now, the WNBA is left wondering how they let their brightest star slip through their fingers. Clark had been dropping hints for months that she was unhappy with how the league was treating her. She was frustrated with the officiating, the lack of support, and the fact that she was being paid like a benchwarmer. And yet, the league didn't take her seriously. Maybe they thought a few endorsement deals would keep her happy. Maybe they thought she'd never actually leave. But Clark isn't just any player. She's smart, driven, and knows her worth. So when Europe came knocking with a lifetime contract, Clark didn't hesitate. She packed her bags and waved goodbye. And honestly, who can blame her? The WNBA had already shown her how little they valued her. Why stick around when Europe is offering the recognition and paycheck she deserves? This move by Clark isn't just a blow to the WNBA, it's a wake-up call for the entire league. Other players are watching, and they're thinking, if Caitlin Clark can get a lifetime deal overseas, what am I doing here? The WNBA better get their act together, or they're going to see more and more top players making the jump to Europe. Why stick around for crumbs when Europe is throwing bags of cash at you? The WNBA knew they had a superstar in Clark. She was hands down the face of the league, single-handedly driving up TV ratings, merchandise sales, and ticket revenue. Yet, they still refused to fully embrace her. Instead of building their brand around her, they tried to keep the spotlight balanced among other players. And that's what cost them. The WNBA's decision to keep things fair cost them their biggest star. Now, with Clark gone, the WNBA is left to pick up the pieces. They didn't just lose a player, they lost the player who was supposed to define the future of women's basketball. And that's going to sting. Who's going to fill that void? Who's going to bring in the ratings, the sponsors, and the fans? The WNBA is going to have a tough time bouncing back from this. In the end, it's hard to feel sorry for the WNBA. They had every opportunity to make things right with Clark, and they blew it. They could have made her the face of the league, built a marketing empire around her, and taken women's basketball to new heights. But instead, they hesitated. And now, Europe is reaping the benefits while the WNBA is left scrambling. This move by Clark also sets a dangerous precedent for the WNBA. Other players are watching this unfold and thinking, if Caitlin Clark can get a lifetime deal overseas, why not me? The WNBA needs to wake up and start paying its stars what they're worth, or they're going to find themselves losing more and more talent to Europe. Why stick around in a league that doesn't value you when there's a place offering respect, recognition, and a paycheck that reflects your worth? Clark's frustrations weren't just about money, though. She was dealing with dirty plays on the court, terrible officiating, and a league that didn't have her back. Remember that infamous eye poke in the playoffs? Clark was on the receiving end of a brutal jab to the eye, yet the refs didn't call a foul. It was a pattern she had seen all season: dirty plays, bad calls, and a lack of support from the league. The worst part? The WNBA knew what was happening, and they did nothing. Instead of protecting their star player, they allowed her to be treated like an afterthought. It wasn't just about the money or the calls on the court. It was about respect. The WNBA failed to respect Caitlin Clark, and now they're paying the price. In the end, Caitlin Clark's decision to sign a lifetime contract in Europe is a reminder that the WNBA needs to do better. If they want to keep their stars, they need to start treating them like stars. Otherwise, they're going to keep losing talent to Europe, and the league will suffer as a result. The WNBA had every chance to make Clark happy, and they failed. Now, they're paying the price. Europe is treating Clark like the queen she is, while the WNBA is left wondering how they let their biggest star slip away. It's not just a loss for the league, it's a loss for women's basketball as a whole. And if the WNBA doesn't wake up soon, they're going to find themselves losing even more talent to the bright lights and big paychecks of Europe.